Hey folks, Studio here. So we're going to do the OK Friday from last week today, and the reason for that is real life. So last week's gimmick was we need to push at the 5-minute or 8-minute mark as a group of 5. Everybody from your team needs to go take an objective. It can be Dragon, Baron, a tower, enemy blue or enemy red. You're blue, you're red, don't count. Because they can be contested, but they're not quite as hard to take as theirs or Dragon. So after that, every 5 minutes, you gotta go take another objective. So that was the gimmick. Got a pretty cool submission. And aside from that, I want to thank the Battle Map Bastards, actually, who are the guys who submitted it. So thanks, y'all. Y'all is how I refer to them. And last but not least, I have a small announcement. Today there will be, or not today, but this week, there will be more content because I can record more this week. So there will be more recording done. There's a process that goes from can I record more? Oh, I can? I guess I will. Maybe I'll go eat some Butterfingers instead. So if I cannot eat Butterfingers and walk to the store at midnight to buy junk food, I will go and record more content. If I do go to the store at midnight to buy more junk food, I will eat junk food and be fat and lazy. So, I'm going to record, don't worry. So, let's hop into the game and say bye, maestro. Okay, so first things first, let's see who's playing who. We got the Sambasti with Smite Exhaust Shyvana, Pandanthony with Heal Flash Sivir, Rectum Howard with Kog'Maw and Flash Ignite, Esteems the Karma with Smite Flash, and Fat Danny the Aurelia with Clairvoyance Smite. Then we got Zone Ender on 120 on Nasus, Psylocke on Caitlyn, Shoot Me 002 on Sona, Mantuka, I don't know if it's Mantuka, I want to say Mantuka on Amumu, and then Shaolin Panda as the Teleport Clarity Ziggs. So, what do you do as purple side? The enemy team has 3 smites. That is a lot of smites. That is 2 more than you expect. They can burst down Golem instantly. I'm actually not sure if it's instant, but it's going to be 1 spell, 3 smites, it's dead. What do you do in this case? You play defensively and you make sure you're not where they are, because you're going to lose whatever buff you're fighting over. And they clairvoyanced here and saw blue side in the jungle. So they're just going to stick to their blue and be defensive. However, Sivir and Karma are doing their own jungle. So if Amumu enters blue side, there's going to be nothing for him to take. And that's something that's actually really cool. So the big thing blue side has to worry about when they're going to go for early objectives is characters with big teamfight potential. So who's going to be someone like this on purple side? Amumu. Amumu's going to have this huge strength in terms of just putting on pressure. He's going to have that massive AoE ult, that high damage. So if they make sure there's no jungle for Amumu to take, and that he's behind and not level 6 when they start going for objectives, Amumu's not going to be able to do anything. And when you're this sad little mummy crying at guys, you can't even curse them. I mean, you can't use your curse to the sad mummy, then what are you going to do? Nothing. So if they keep Amumu down and get into early team fights, blue side just has this massive advantage. Now, aside from that, we've got just massive AoE teamfight potential from bot lane. The Caitlyn's not going to be strong mid to late, but when you're level 6, 8 minutes in, she's going to be super powerful. But luckily, they get first blood, and more importantly, the AD support lane is not super fast in hitting level 6, and might not even be level 6 at the 8-minute mark. I actually think they won't be. But now that Shyvana has taken quite a bit of Amumu's jungle, she's just going to walk around, take her own, casually just make sure she's keeping her farm up. She can counter jungle all day and make sure Amumu gets nothing, but you want that potential, you want that damage on Shyvana. Levels are really, really nice. You get so tanky so fast, even after the nerfs. And I do like these plays where she's just walking into the jungle, taking Blue Wraith, and making sure Amumu's not getting that all-needed experience. The only thing I think isn't too important here is ganking Nasus. And that's because she's already chunked him. He's only got 9 CS. And we have just an Aurelia who can just take control of the lane. I guess there is a significant disadvantage for purple side in the fact that Aurelia does not have Flash or Ignite or Teleport. She has CV Smite. That's something you'd have to take advantage of blue side or purple side. You have to realize that, okay, we can't really do anything in the jungle. We're going to need to take control of this game through a lane. As you can see here, Amumu was pretty far behind. He's level 4 to Shyvana's 5. And he also rushed an Emblem of Valor. Now, Emblem of Valor will actually give him a lot of HP regen, which Amumu does not have innate sustain, so that's great for him. But it doesn't really do anything for his mana problems. So I'm not too sure why he rushed it, but I can understand some of the logic. So we're heading towards the 8-minute mark, and they're going to start going for their first objective. If you noticed, Amumu had about 25 CS to Shyvana's 30, which isn't huge, but he mostly has scraps. He has like just small wraiths. He has nothing too significant. He doesn't have red buff, for example. And now we go for the first objective. The strength of 2 smites and 2 Madrids right there. Quite a bit of instant death for that golem. And they're going to go for dragon. And this is a great move. You have Aurelia down here. You have everybody down here. This is 5 people going for dragon. Sivir is not quite there, but it's not going to take her a long time to show up. I mean, I think I actually asked for 5 people to show up to every objective, but at that point, like, it's just over the top to send Sivir to. The one criticism I did have is they did not ward that area right there. You know, the from mid lane to jungle from purple side, but once you saw Nasus top, there was nothing they were going to do to stop that fight. They need Nasus just to even be there and take damage. Because right now their team is just so squishy that Aurelia and Shyvana diving is going to be huge. Now they keep going for this pressure, and I like this pressure because why not? There's no reason for them not to, except the fact that the enemy's there. If Symbassi had been a little higher in HP, I think this would have gone perfectly. But as it is, he has to get away. And oh look, Shyvana has a really good ult. So Amumu freaks out and walks towards Kog'Maw. You gotta keep that calmness. He could have survived that actually if he'd walked north and just left purple jungle instead of walking to Kog'Maw. And Aurelia dies to Nasus Ziggs. Now, Nasus getting a kill isn't a huge deal because he scales off items, but he scales more off of CS. And while an early kill in lane for Nasus is really good because that means he's ahead of his lane opponent, a kill in the jungle when you're trading isn't that significant. And Kog'Maw got a kill. Now Kog'Maw getting kills is scary as hell because holy Kog'Maw. Now this is a cool move. I really like this move. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna take your golem. You're gonna try and jungle. I don't want to fight you now because you have red buff. Actually, I don't know if you have red buff, but you're there. He doesn't have red buff. I'm silly. It's like, but you have your team nearby. I'm not in a safe place. My ult's not up. So if I fight you, it's risky. So what does Shyvana do? Take the golem and run away. And Amumu's still not being 6. That's really, really big. The fact that they can not team fight quite yet. And once Amumu hits 6, he's going to be so squishy, he's going to be almost irrelevant. He's just going to get into a fight and die. And while the Amumu ult can set up big things, it can set up Sona ult, it can set up a fantastic Ziggs ult. It's really, really hard to set these things up if you have 2 seconds tops to survive, as someone like Amumu who has to be tanky. So, what should blue side be focusing on now? Well, they should be going for their next objective soon, and they want to make sure that they don't get into a bad engagement. They're keeping up map control, they want people everywhere, they want wards everywhere. Karma should have been in that bush, but they're still catching Amumu out here, and we get into this really, really long engagement. I say long because it's going across both bushes. So here Sivir's being chased by Sona and Caitlyn, but she steps off to the side and is able to get off her damage despite being next to a Sona ult. And they get Sona Caitlyn for Sivir. A fantastic trade. I mean, it's just worth it. Ziggs getting kills is also kind of scary, but Sivir has a strong mid-game presence, and they're a team fight pushing early AoE team. Not AoE, but they're just like an early pushing team. So for blue side, Saber getting farmed is a whole lot stronger than, say, Caitlyn getting farmed or Nasus getting farmed. Because by the time they can use that farm, well, actually Caitlyn, when they can use that farm, so Caitlyn's going to be very, very early and late, and Nasus is going to be very, very late only. By the time they can actually use that farm, they should have already won the game. As blue side. So they went for blue, they got 2 kills, and I know what you're thinking. Well, purple side isn't very good, and no, they're not a 2K team. But you'll notice teams like Moscow 5, teams like TSM Dignitas, or Dignitas. I cannot pronounce that word. As well as many other words. I'm going to release all these words in a book called Words I Cannot Pronounce. Anyhow, so teams like Dig, teams like Moscow 5, they do these really weird strategies. And you can call them a gimmick, you can call them their unique flair, but there's no reason you can't think up these strategies on your own. I mean, what's going to be trouble is execution. If you're not as coordinated as a Moscow 5, if you're not as good in terms of just laning, it's going to be hard to pull off strategies. But if you can be someone like Goose, for example, Goose loves to do crazy things with lanes. Dig, they like to do crazy things with lanes. They've done some cool strategies too. And Moscow 5 does just whatever the hell they do. I don't know, it's awesome. If you can do these things, you can make up for different aspects of your play. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't try and be better in lane, for example, but if you're playing in a way where how strong you are in lane doesn't matter, because you're doing these cool things in the jungle or as a team, then go for it. Try to improve, try to get better in lane, but you can get these cool strategies and just kind of work your way up. Don't try and play an equal game. So, like, let's say I'm going against all of TSM and I'm just with solo queue puppies. If we try and play a normal game of League of Legends, where we just, do our lane thing, do some roaming, do some team fighting, play it standard, TSM's going to win. Because they're going to be able to expect it. They're going to see us going, oh, they're going to just do the normal stuff. Not really coordinated. They're just going to win, and we're going to not be able to do anything. If you try something crazy, if you try something strong, you're taking a risk. It can easily fail. This team fight thing could have gone horribly wrong for so many reasons. But if you try it, all of a sudden you're playing a different game, and it's up to the enemy team to react and adapt. And if they don't react and if they don't adapt, then you can take the game. I've seen it happens a lot. Like, Dig is certainly a strong team now. I really like Dig. Dig's one of the teams I enjoy quite a bit. But they definitely had some of their problems when they were first starting out in terms of just coordination and organization. And while they've improved at that quite a bit, early on they didn't really need it so much because they had these strong strategies they relied on. Anyhow, back to the game. So they go for Baron. I really don't need to say why. I mean, they just had an advantage. They got a kill, and Nasus had to go B. While they didn't see Nasus go back, they could have assumed. And making an assumption like that, while risky, has really high payoffs, especially in this situation where they were so far ahead. Sona going for the steal. I'm sorry, look. As a support player, sometimes you just can't do anything. And it sucks. So, at this point, killing Amumu isn't quite as important, but, kill's a kill. These trades really are worth it just for the people who get the kills. The fact that this is Kog'Maw getting kills is huge. And while he's able to escape this fight, he doesn't really need to. He can actually stand his ground very, very well. That's the thing with Kog'Maw that makes him really cool. He scales incredibly well no matter what you do and has an incredibly strong auto attack. Even if you go tank Kog'Maw, he'll still have a really strong auto attack, which is just awesome. Kog'Maw is just a character you cannot trade with in any situation. If he's AP mid, if he's bot lane, if he's some weird jungle, if you're trading with Kog'Maw, there are probably characters that have better trades, but it's just not worth it for the most of the cast of the game. So blue side got Baron, and now they have to actually start going for towers. Now, towers are different from objectives, because you can't just fight and win over it. There's going to be this extra tower that's going to be pressuring you, and you can't just be next. Like, you can be next to Golem and fighting over Golem. If you're next to a tower fighting over a tower, it's a lot harder to do. Also, just watch Kog'Maw's damage here. What the hell? How do you do that? I don't know. I believe he uses Q and E, and I don't actually know how he did that damage. I don't know how Kog'Maw works. Kog'Maw is one of those characters where you will see him do stuff, and it doesn't look very dramatic, but you're dead. This also happens to me with Aurelia, where it doesn't really look like she does a lot, but you're dead. So anyhow, back to things that actually matter. So they're just keeping up this pressure. Karma Shield really coming into play right there. I guess when it comes to tower diving shields, Karma's probably the strongest. And I mean this when you're using the person who's got the shield to tower dive. I really wish Karma was a stronger hero. She's incredibly fun to play. She actually has a kit that almost works. It just doesn't work as a support kit. She's very, very strong as an AP mid. And in the sense I mean that she can lane. But she doesn't really have that mid-game presence, and the fact that she doesn't have an ult really comes into play. There are very few AP mids that I know of that don't have strong ults. Anyhow, so Shyvana Sivir, very, very hard to catch, but they do get Sivir. A bit late on the spell shield, and these catches are actually what turn games. Because blue side does not have strong team fight. They do have a very, very strong Kog'Maw and a strong team, but they don't have AoE CC, they don't have these massive, super potent things like Amumu ult and Sona ult. So what do you do in this case? How do you deal with them? The answer is don't team fight unless you have a significant advantage. In this case, they kited the enemy for so long that they were able to just get decent positioning. Unfortunately, their team was just too low. I do love the Aurelia turret positioning there. And Rectum Howard is getting chased down. Ziggs is getting chased down by Aurelia. So, this little chase right here, it's really actually bad for blue side. Because the second that they start getting into team fights and losing them, if they can't win team fights, they're going to lose the game. If they get into them. And that's a significant part. However, right here you're seeing Kog'Maw just kill everybody. And then a very, very silly dive from Nasus. What ended up happening was Kog'Maw used his ult to kill two people, Ziggs and Sona. And as they chased Aurelia down, they just were running out of people and just didn't notice. That is something really, really interesting that you'll see happen, which is teammates will get caught out. They'll get picked, they'll get put in these bad situations, and their allies won't notice. So in this case, it was Kog'Maw killing off the supports and the AP carry, and Nasus not noticing as he dove that bot tower, or mid tower. And that damage from Kog'Maw. I haven't seen a lot of AP Kog'Maw. CLG's been doing it recently, I believe, and it really has a lot of laning presence. That's what makes Kog'Maw so strong as a mid. He's really, really good in lane. However, he also just does a ton of damage. And while you can't play him as an AoE CC initiator like Annie or a lot of characters, you can play him like Ziggs in the sense that you have a lot of a range poke and just do a lot of damage with that. Kog'Maw ult's actually really hard to dodge because it's coming at you so constantly. And if you're off the ball for a second, you've taken a significant chunk of true damage. It's so interesting to see Kog'Maws in different positions. He really is a strong character. So back to the game. They're doing a Baron play. Purple side was not fast enough. They just couldn't take it. There was not much they could do. I can understand why they went for that move, but there was not a lot they could do to actually take it. They can't team fight at this point. They've just lost too many fights. They're really far behind. This is a problem where they have to wait for the enemy team to dive them at the tower, and if they don't, they're going to lose the game. So here we're going to see the AoE CC come out. Amumu has to ult because he's going to die. Sona had to ult because she was going to die too. So both their CCs get stacked, which is not what you want. And you just see cleanup coming in from Kog'Maw and the rest of blue team. Now, had blue team played this game normally, they would be losing right now. But right now, Kog'Maw just able to clean up. Ziggs cannot outpoke Kog'Maw, and Kog'Maw just does so much damage. It's ridiculous. But blue team would not have won this game if they played it straight up. They played it differently. They used these weird summoners and weird skills and weird team composition to just take advantage of the game. And that was cool. That's what you need to do in this game. Even at a pro level, if you don't adapt new strategies, you're just going to get predictable. So this was an okay Friday. This is Studio saying adios, and hope you enjoyed the daily.